Gretchen, we always on this podcast talk about the importance of getting good sleep. And part of good sleep is a great pillow. There are side sleepers, back sleepers, even starfishes. I'm a side sleeper. And Gretchen, I got a pillow from Coop Sleep Goods that is so perfect for me. I went from using like 2 pillows together that were not quite right to using my one Coop pillow, which is perfect. I love it.
Visit coopsleepgoods.com/happier to get 20% off your first order. That's COOP sleepgoods.com/happier. The weather is warming up and it is time for picnics.
At Whole Foods Market, you can save every day. Look for the yellow low price signs that help you save money without compromising the quality you expect from Whole Foods Market. Find them with their responsibly farmed Atlantic salmon, no antibiotics ever ground beef, and boneless, skinless chicken breasts, plus more throughout the store. Yellow really means savings at Whole Foods Market because their sale signs are also yellow. So basically, wherever you see yellow, you know you're saving money. Save on the best of spring with great everyday prices at Whole Foods Market.
Lemonada.
Hey everyone, it's Gretchen and Elizabeth. We're so delighted to share something we think you'll find both insightful and inspiring. Confessions of a Female Founder, a new podcast from Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, from Lemonada Media.
As Meghan sets out to build a business of her own, she's getting advice and insights from a handful of amazing women who have scaled small ideas into successful companies. These fly-on-the-wall conversations will no doubt inspire anyone who's interested in turning their own entrepreneurial dreams into a reality and anyone else who just wants to hear what really happens behind the scenes.
In this episode, Meghan talks with Reshma Saujani, a tenacious founder who you may remember from our recent Friendship Roundtable. Reshma created not one, but 2 remarkable nonprofits that aim to close the gender gap for women: Girls Who Code and Moms First. Meghan and Reshma first connected years ago when Girls Who Code was expanding into the UK. In this episode, they reunite to talk about redesigning workplaces for women and how to make the hard choice to put your health and yourself before your work. We hope you'll give it a listen. To hear more episodes, follow Confessions of a Female Founder with Meghan or hit the link in the show notes.
I'm sitting there the next day. I've pissed off everybody. I'm broke. And no one's calling me.
Oh, no.
No one's calling me.
I'm Meghan, and this is Confessions of a Female Founder, a show where I chat with female entrepreneurs and friends about the sleepless nights, the lessons learned, and the laser focus that got them to where they are today.
No time to get down, 'cause I'm moving up. No time to get down, 'cause I'm moving up. No time to get down, 'cause I'm moving up.
Behind the scenes, there are so many struggles that female founders don't post about. They don't even talk about the moments when you feel broken, when things don't go as planned, when simply showing up feels like a huge feat. And yet we do it. We push through. We keep smiling. We keep going out there. You get on the panel. You do the thing. And at a certain point, though, it does raise the question, how do we redefine what it means to be a female founder without just running ourselves into the ground?
And if that happens, we're going to lose a generation of social entrepreneurs that we desperately need to continue these fights. And so we got to show them a different way. We got to do it a different way.
Today's episode is about fighting for what you believe in and all the highs and the lows that come with it. And that's precisely why I wanted to talk to Reshma Saujani. She founded not one, but 2 incredible nonprofits that help close the gender gap for women. First, with Girls Who Code, and now with Moms First. She's lived the pressures of building a business both behind the scenes and in the spotlight, and her candid take on leading a movement, it's going to make you rethink how to fight for what you believe in. Let's get into it. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm so happy you're here. It's been a while.
It's been a long time. I saw you.
Do you remember?
Different circumstances, long time.
Yes, life was different. Well, I mean, we had met 2018, I guess.
You were very pregnant.
Oh my gosh. Yes, it would have been 2018, pregnant with Archie at Kensington Palace.
Yes.
How did you end up at that meeting with me?
Because you're an amazing human.
Oh my
And it's true. And we were bringing Girls Who Code to England, and we were looking to expand, and you generously met with me.
Oh, that's kind to say generous. I was thrilled to learn more at the time. I would say even the idea of coding and STEM, do you remember that's when things were transitioning from STEM to STEAM?
Yep.
It was so new, and it was definitely new for me. But I remember you came in, we sat in the audience room, and I just said, tell me all about it. But it was such a great sit down because it was an eye-opener for me of so many other ways in which women were showing up for young girls. And I'm curious to get into how that became your focal point. But can we just start well before that? Can we go way, way back? Take us back to the beginning.
So, for me, my parents came here as refugees. My mother was actually several months pregnant with my sister when they came. They had no money. And the Catholic Church took them in, fed them, sheltered them, clothed them. So I've always had this deep love for this country and for that spirit, right, of empathy that we shelter and that we love and then we care for those who have been displaced. So it was always in my blood that I wanted to give back to the country. I wanted to do public service, and I wanted to, fight for those who didn't have a voice.
Which is beautiful and also completely confounding when you know more about your upbringing, how you were bullied, how you were mistreated, how you were beaten up. For a lot of people, that would devolve into, no, I'm not showing up in the spirit of love anymore. I've been too bruised and beaten. So Can you talk a little bit about that? Because you grew up in Chicago, and what was it like?
No one's ever asked me that before, because you're right. I could have turned to anger and hate given what I was going through, and I went the opposite way. My parents came here in the 70s, grew up in a working class town, outside of Chicago, Illinois. There were no brown people. And, my mom was still wearing her sari and her bindi on her head, going to the Kmart, right? Still eating Indian food. And, back then it was all about assimilation. My father went to Toastmasters to get rid of his accent. He literally changed his name from Mukund to Mike. He still signs my birthday cards love Mike. But back then it's if you wanted to fit in, you had to just change, you know what I mean? And that's kind of how we felt too, right? I remember being so mad, Meghan, that my mom named me Reshma. I'm like, why didn't you just name me Rita or Rachel? Because everyone would be like, how do I say it?
Right.
And, we didn't have a lot of money. So we were wearing the Kmart shoes and the wrong jeans and the wrong shirt. And remember, it was all Forenza sweatshirts and feathers and the 90s
Oh, the sparkly BB shirt that said BB in sequins across the front. I saved up for that. Yes.
Totally. And we had none of we had the knockoff version, you know what I mean, of all of that. But so I really tried to be white. I tried to be those other girls and deny my culture and all of it. And every day I would get made fun of and bullied. And one day, I don't know, there was nothing special about that day, Meghan. I just, when challenged to go to the back of the school, for a fight, I was like, okay, instead of just getting on the bus.
Wow.
And that day changed my life, right? Because I got beat up pretty bad, but I also realized I'm not white and I'm never going to be. And I have a responsibility to actually teach people about difference. Literally, I went to freshman year of high school and started a club called PRISM, the Prejudice Reduction Interested Students Movement. Horrible name. I got better at that.
It's quite the acronym. It really, but it's definitely high impact for a 12 or 13-year-old girl to come up with that. It says a lot.
Yeah, I guess it does. So yeah, I think I turned to hope.
I mean, honestly, it just says so much about your character to look yourself in the mirror and really see who you are. But even from that moment, You're still at a crossroads where you could have chosen, you know what, I am going to be an entrepreneur and I'm going to build a business and I'm going to be so successful. But instead, your activist spirit is what came through, always wanting to affect change.
Yeah. I realized early on what my gift was. So I started going to Model UN and debate, and I realized, ooh, I can give a speech. Like, I can communicate, and I actually feel at home on stage. And I'm thinking the way to make a difference is to run for office. I'm in love with Dr. King, Mahatma Gandhi, John F. Kennedy. Like, back then, I thought politics, and you know how to communicate? Like, that's where you go. And so I, volunteer on my first campaign, the 1992 Clinton campaign, fell in love with politics and Washington and Hillary Clinton and the whole thing. And I'm looking at all these people like a Hillary, and they all got a degree from Harvard and they're all lawyers. And so maybe that's my path, right? I'm going to Yale Law School. That's where I'm going. I apply 3 times, don't get in. You know what I mean? Finally get in.
But not just finally get in. Didn't you make a plea to the dean? Didn't you just really go in?
I did.
What did you say?
Well, so I had this mentor, Leon Higginbotham Jr. He was like the first federal Black jurist on the Third Circuit Court. And he becomes my mentor. Every Sunday, I am at him and Evelyn's house listening to like the heroes of the civil rights movement. And it is just, I love Leon. And Leon's like, oh, girl, you're getting in. Like, when you go to Yale Law School, when you walk in, there's my photo. Like, I got you. And he dies. And he doesn't write my recommendation letter.
Oh, I didn't. Okay.
Before he dies.
Okay.
So I'm devastated. And I don't have a recommendation letter. And it's like, it's his funeral. Everybody is there. And at the funeral, I meet the assistant of the dean of Yale Law School. And kind of like, she feels sorry for me. And she was like, I'll get an appointment for you. And she kind of squeezes me in Dean Crommon's schedule. And I go to New Haven and make my pitch. And Dean Crommon's like, listen, I'll make you a deal. Like, you've gotten into all these other schools. Like, I got into Penn and Northwestern. I mean, like, right? Like, really good schools. And he's like, I'll make you a deal. Like, just go at any of those schools. And if you get into the top 10%, I'll let you come to Yale.
Oh, wow.
So I go to Georgetown. I don't make one friend. I study every single day. I am just super focused, right? Like, getting straight A's so I can go to Yale. But it was such a lesson, Meghan, in like, I was just so narrowly focused that I had to have that Yale law degree so I could go do the things that I wanted to do, not understanding that I was just letting life and its experiences just pass me by. What happens then is that Bush v. Gore happens, and I'm thinking I'm going into public interest, right? I'm going to go work at the NAACP, right? Like, civil rights, that's what I want to do. Bush wins. No one's going to D.C., and I'm like, oh, and I'm $300,000 in student loan debt. I guess I'm going to go work for the man in New York at a law firm, which I hate. And that's when I run for office. Take this crazy chance, right, in running in a primary. I was 33 years old. My name was Reshma Saujani. There had never been a South Asian woman to ever run before. I run for United States Congress. I lose like spectacularly. I mean, it's like not even close. But I had like convinced John Legend to do like 2 concerts for me, like Jack Dorsey. Like I had hustled the whole world, right, into thinking that like I'm winning this upstart race.
Right.
And it is not even close. Like, I'm crushed. And the biggest kind of aha for me was I'm sitting there the next day. I'm in my like 400 square foot Lower East Side apartment. I've pissed off everybody in the Democratic establishment because I didn't wait my turn. I ran against another Democrat. I'm broke because I spent a year running for office instead of working. And no one's calling me.
Oh, no.
No one's calling me. But the biggest kind of, I think, moment that changes my life is I realized like, oh my God, like this was the thing that I thought that I was supposed to do. Run for office, be a politician, be a public servant. The very thing that I had been driving towards, Yale, all of that was about this destination. It doesn't happen for me. But when I wake up the next morning, I'm like, oh, like, I'm not broken. Yeah, this sucks, but like, I'm not broken. Huh. I think we think as women that when we try something, especially something we want so bad, and it doesn't work out, that it will break us and we won't be able to like wake up the next day. We won't be able to continue on. Forget about like the humiliation and the judgment and all that. I think there's a sense that like failure will cripple you.
Right, that it will break you as opposed to break you open for the possibility of more.
Exactly. And so now the thing doesn't happen and I'm like, there's a lot of things that I should maybe fail at and try and learn. And that's the path.
Yeah, and when it breaks open, it leaves space and room for so much more love, growth, resilience to all pour in.
Yeah.
On this podcast, we talk a lot about how we can make our lives happier. But we can't pursue our happiest lives if we're struggling with our relationship with food or with our body. Eating disorders are serious mental illnesses, and they can affect people of any age, gender, or body size. They have a serious negative impact on physical and mental health. Eating disorders can show up in a lot of different ways. It might look like restrictive eating, compulsive exercise, or feeling out of control when you eat.
If you're concerned about your eating habits or worried about a loved one, we want to introduce you to Equip. Equip is a fully virtual, evidence-based eating disorder program that helps patients achieve lasting recovery at home. Each patient is matched with a multidisciplinary care team and gets a personalized treatment plan that helps them beat the eating disorder. If you think that you or a loved one could be struggling with an eating disorder, don't wait to get help. Visit equip.health/happier to learn more. That's equip.health/happier. This episode of Happier with Gretchen Rubin is brought to you by Alloy Women's Health. Aging can be tough. You can have problems sleeping, hot flashes, brain fog, weight gain, and decreased libido can hit you hard. I know so many people, Gretchen, talking about menopause. It is inevitable for all women. And I just found out that almost half of women went 3+ years before seeking relief from menopause or perimenopausal symptoms. Don't do that to yourself.
Alloy solutions are available by prescription, so you'll need to complete a short medical questionnaire and patient verification. We can't recommend Alloy enough. Join the 95% of women who tried Alloy and saw relief in the first 2 weeks. Head to myalloy.com/happier and tell them all about your symptoms, and you'll get a fully customized treatment plan. And you'll get $20 off your first order today. Head to myalloy.com/happier and enter code happier to get $20 off your first order.
Why STEM? What made you realize how big of a deal it was?
I mean, I always say, like, if I had applied to be the CEO of Girls Who Code, I wouldn't have gotten the job. I didn't code. I'd never coded before.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I majored in poli-sci speech communications. And the only thing I'd ever built was a failed campaign.
And you don't really think of coding as the person who's on the stage giving the speeches. You think of it as the person who's behind the keyboard. And
yeah. And, you know, those coding jobs, they paid a lot, like $120,000 a year. And when I saw that girls and girls of color, poor girls, were not going into these fields, in my mind, like, they weren't going into the fields that would help them, like, march up into the middle class and change their entire trajectory for them and their families. And that's what, like, drove me to coding and technology.
well, and the creation for access in such a different way, right? For that next step that they may have otherwise not even had a window to peer in through to know that that was a room that was worth going into.
Yeah. And you're working on this now. Also, like, the things that they're going to create, like bullying, right? Like, what are they doing on these problems that they experience, right? Whether it's bullying, whether it's health, whether it's sexual harassment, right? Like, if they know how to code, they can build tools that are going to help solve problems that are faced by women and girls.
Completely. And now as we look at all the different modalities, and AI and everything else to really get ahead of how they can be integral in the creation of those next phases of tech. So, but what was the big break with Girls Who Code? When did people start paying attention and you went, oh, I'm actually onto something here?
So, okay. I thought nonprofits are slow. They don't get anything done. Like nothing happens. Like it's not for me, right? Like I want to be where the action is. I want to be where the real change is. So I ran Girls Who Code and now Moms First, like a tech company.
Oh, interesting.
Big scale, big numbers, hard driving, big change, KPIs, destination where we want to go with like essentially like a nonprofit lens. So it was always kind of like unicorns and rainbows, I'll be honest, right? Like sometimes you have an idea and the world just collides to make that happen. And so Girls Who Code was a little like that, right? From the beginning, people were like, oh yeah, this needs to exist.
But we all also know that fundraising for nonprofits can be really hard. I mean, maybe not as hard with unicorns and rainbows there, but it can be hard.
Yeah.
What do you think one tip is for people who are starting specifically a nonprofit? How do you get funders?
So here's the thing. I very early on at Girls Who Code got Jack Dorsey to support it. And back then, everybody was like, oh, Jack's doing it? Great. And I'll say with Moms First, it was you. Like very early on, you were like, oh, paid leave, this movement, moms, yes. And I think the thing is, for people and entrepreneurs, it does help to get an early adopter, especially one that people admire, right? And that people want to follow and see as like a guidepost. And so, yeah, for Girls Who Code, it was really Jack. And, you know, for Moms First, it was you and Melinda.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that. That's so, I'm glad that I could be additive in any way. I think one of the pieces of advice I was given early on, maybe not even advice, but insight, was when you're looking at funding for a nonprofit or even in business building, but specifically in the nonprofit sector, yes, you want to get one hook because it makes other people feel confident coming in. But in those conversations, if you go to someone and you ask for money, they're likely going to give you advice. And if you go to someone and you ask for advice, they're much more likely to give you money.
That's a good tip.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm taking that one to the bank.
Just go for advice, because otherwise people aren't immediately feeling pressurized. You're just going for advice. And then if it makes sense for them, they'll offer up what they think you might need as opposed to going in with an ask. So different. Small distinction, but it makes a big difference, I think.
I really like that.
Yeah, you have this quote that I love that was, leaders cannot or should not stay in organizations forever.
Yes.
You can't stay innovative if you have the same person leading the movement forever. Such an interesting insight, because a lot of people, I think, in that same pursuit of success, as we're talking about, especially as female founders, stepping away could feel like failure, as opposed to the choice, the active choice you make to say, no, I'm not just doing this for myself, I'm doing this for this organization.
So, you know, I knew it was time to step away from Girls Who Code. One, because I actually don't think anyone should run anything for more than 8 years. And then two, this energy I was feeling around motherhood and Moms First and this need to fight for childcare and paid leave, like there was something I knew that I wanted to do. So I had this amazing CEO who's now our CEO, Dr. Tarika Barrett, and I'd always wanted her to run the organization. And so it's like middle of COVID, I know it's time. And one, I know if I tell anybody that I want to step down, including my husband, he's going to talk me out of it. So I don't tell anybody. I get on a train. I like basically say, Tarika, I need to meet with you. And I'm like, I'm ready. And I think you're ready. And she said, all right, let's go. So one, I think it was so important for me to pick a successor, especially a woman of color, and give her the opportunity of like the fruits of my labor, right? Because building Girls Who Code almost killed me, Meghan. You know, I was always on a plane. I was always just hustling. But I had built something that I knew was sustainable because I had rebuilt it during the pandemic. I had money in the bank, right? So like oftentimes if you're a new CEO taking over an organization, you're terrified, like fundraising is hard. So I knew I could give her something that like had legs.
Mm-hmm.
But it was such an interesting lesson because the day we were transitioning, my assistant said to me, okay, I'm going to get you a conference room and you're going to get so many emails, so many people are going to call you that we got to block out 3 hours. So Tarika and I send the emails. She's in one room. I'm in one room. Press send. Crickets.
Oh, no.
Crickets. Tarika calls me a couple hours later. She's like, oh my God, like it's been so amazing, the amount of emails and the phone calls. So she's like, how's it been for you? And I didn't want to tell her, right, that no one had called me. But it was such an important lesson on like, this is why people don't give up power, because when you don't have power, you're not important anymore, right? So it's so easy to hold on to it because your identity is so caught up in it. But that to me was part of the work, right? From an ego perspective, being able to let it go, give somebody else that light, knowing that like it was going to actually diminish my power, right? My resources, my access. But that was the point.
I mean, that is a lot of, I'm not going to say work. I'm talking about self-work. That is a lot of growth that takes people a tremendous amount of time to settle into the confidence to be able to do that and to not feel rattled when the phone's not ringing, to not feel rattled when you've stepped out of the light, so to speak. But as you step out of the light, you're actually stepping into your own light in a different way and creating space for someone else to be in the light, which is probably the larger purpose of all of us being here.
That's so beautiful. So true.
And I'll bring this up if you're comfortable talking about it, because I know you've spoken publicly about, as you were doing Girls Who Code, all the interpersonal things that are happening for you at that time, and the miscarriages that you've experienced. I've spoken about the miscarriage that we experienced.
Yeah.
And I think in some parallel way, when you have to learn to detach from the thing that you have so much promise and hope for, and to be able to be okay at a certain point to let something go that you plan to love for a long time.
That's really insight. Yeah. I was going to say, I feel like you're like reading my diaries. Like that's really it's really insightful because I don't think anyone's seen it that way, like said it that way for me. But that's right. Because, here I was for so many years, like trying to get pregnant, having miscarriages because I had autoimmune issues. And I got into this really like kind of scary habit where I would be at a doctor's office and they'd be like, you have no heartbeat. And I should have just gone home and gone to sleep and curled up with my husband. But I would just take a breath and I would just show up in a living room, in a stage, and just perform. And oftentimes I was like performing in front of these children that I desperately wanted. And I just got really good at that. But it was eating me up inside. And it wasn't until my second, where I was again on this path of serial miscarriages. And I remember just one day, it was like I was in California. I had to get on a plane and go to Utah to speak to like 1,000 girls and like the governor. And like that morning, I get a call from the doctor and they're like, okay, your HCG levels are not going up. You're going to miscarry. And I just got on a plane and I was just sitting there in front of these girls and my heart was just breaking. And I remember saying, this is it. I'm not doing it again. And I went to my team and I said, guys, and I'd never told them I was going through this. I mean, they kind of knew because they would see these doctor's appointments on my schedule, but I never like just said, I need, and I said, I can't do this anymore. I need you to take over. I need you to run this organization. I need a month. I need a couple months just to breathe.
That takes so much courage to say it.
It did. But it's right, is because I had to detach because I felt like I was letting the girls down. I mean, how ironic is that, right? In my quest to become a mother, you have this beautiful line that I quote all the time, that the most important title I have is mom. And I so desperately wanted that title.
Oh. I do.
And it was the irony of it all, was a lot.
Yes. But that in the journey, how many layers come up, and then you can start to recognize those patterns in your business, in your life, what is that book? I actually think I have it here. My friend just sent me this passage yesterday. It's called The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. It's a children's book that came out of the UK a couple of years ago. But at any rate, beautiful illustrations. I have to get it for you. But the quote is, "What is the bravest thing you've ever said?" asked the boy. "Help," said the horse. And at a certain point, you go, the courage that it takes for a female founder, the courage that it takes for a woman when you're on this path, you're on this grind, you've set expectations, the courage that it takes to say, I need help or I need to pause is tremendous. And there is no way to continue to show up and role model for these young women all the things that you aspire for them to have, that you wanted to have when you were a young girl, if you are not doing it with complete authenticity because you are so close to being burned out.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny, I don't know how to learn this lesson. I'm going to be honest. Like a couple of weeks ago, I had a breast exam and they thought they saw something, and then I had to get a biopsy. And I had never gotten a biopsy before, so I didn't know what to expect. But they're like, you know what? It's just a pinch. You'll be fine. And I had a panel that night. And I know now from DNCs and C-sections and like IUDs that it's not a pinch. But still, like, I keep my schedule, right? I keep it all. I tell my husband's like, let me come with you. I'm like, no. I'm good. I got it. I'm fine.
No.
And it hurt like hell, right? My whole breath, right? And I go and I do the panel and I'm sitting there and I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like, you know better than this. What is wrong with you? And I think it's so hard to unlearn what this is really about. Because I think, one, it's personal, but two, like the sense of like, I'm strong, I'm resilient, I can take it, I got it, right? Because all these things have served me. It's why I've been able to do the things that I do. And then I think we live in this society that encourages women to do that.
Yeah.
And this sense that like we don't break and we're not allowed to break.
Not allowed to break. You have to keep smiling. All of these constructs that I think we've all been prey to and have projected. And at a certain point, I mean, I often find too, even in the advocacy work or showing up and wanting to, that you go, am I saying the thing, but I'm not doing the thing?
Yeah.
And when can we start taking our own advice? What do you think that pivot point will be? When will the inflection point happen where women, especially the ones who are leading in these movements and leading in this messaging, to actually integrate that in that advice and not just know it or intellectualize it, to integrate it, for you to say, yeah, honey, I am going to clear the rest of my schedule after this appointment, and please, can you drive me and come with me?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I'm seeing, a lot of the women, I just went to Cecile Richards' funeral. So you're seeing a lot of these women who've given themselves to the movement, who've had real health scares and challenges, and that they're not connected. Right? Meaning, like, we expect the people that are trying to fight for women and girls to always be on, to always be working. And we also know at the same time that there's no finish line.
Yeah. And that the body holds the score.
Exactly. Yeah. And especially for women of color, right? Who are always like, oh, but you should go fight, and you should go fight, and you should go save us. That we can't continue to operate that way. And so I think we have to just, because one of the things I'm seeing, I don't have as many young girls or young women reaching out to me on LinkedIn being like, hey, Ms. Saujani, I also want to start a nonprofit. How do I do that? I think that they're looking at us and seeing how exhausted we are, how tired we are, how much you have to sacrifice, and saying, yeah, no, thank you.
Oh, wow.
And if that happens, we're going to lose a generation of social entrepreneurs that we desperately need to continue these fights.
Yeah.
And so we got to show them a different way. We got to do it a different way.
Gretchen, we always on this podcast talk about the importance of getting good sleep. And part of good sleep is a great pillow. There are side sleepers, back sleepers, even starfishes. I'm a side sleeper. And it really matters how your pillow fits with your head, whatever position you're in. Gretchen, I got a pillow from Coop Sleep Goods that is so perfect for me. I went from using like 2 pillows together that were not quite right to using my one Coop pillow, which is perfect. And it's for cool sleepers, so I don't wake up all sweaty in the middle of the night. I love it.
And also with Coop Sleep Goods, you get a 100-night free trial. 86% of sleepers reported better sleep after switching their pillows to Coop. There are more than 100,000 five-star reviews and over 1 million happy sleepers. Visit coopsleepgoods.com/happier to get 20% off your first order. That's COOP sleepgoods.com/happier.
Are you a trailblazer, a risk taker, someone with countless tales of epic adventure? Well, I'm not quite there yet, but I'm working on it. Even the boldest among us started off small, daring themselves to reach greater goals each day. If you're looking to take on a challenge like that, the Defender is too. It's a vehicle built for drivers capable of great things, whether they're headed toward uncharted territory or just a weekend getaway.
Adventure seekers won't want to miss Destination Defender, an epic weekend festival designed for Defender owners and enthusiasts taking place in Port Jervis, New York from May 16th through 18th. This unforgettable weekend includes inspiring talks, off-road driving courses, chef tastings, and live music. To learn more, please visit DestinationDefenderUSA.com. Explore the full Defender lineup at LandRoverUSA.com.
So you mentioned before the break that a lot of these young female entrepreneurs that have that desire to build something are looking at their mentors and saying, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Based on the burnout they're seeing. And so I guess the question is, how do we turn that around?
Yeah.
How do we show that perfect doesn't exist? And maybe that's part of the messaging, but also what does it look like now when you can find balance?
And it's not one or the other. You know, one of the things I'm seeing in the motherhood movement is people think you have to pick being a girl boss or a trad wife, that it's black or white, right? That either you're in the workforce and you can't focus on your kids and you don't get to see them, or you're just at home. And I think the point is that we're just presenting these like polar opposite choices when really what we all want is something in the middle. I want to be able to pick my kids up, at school every so often, give them a little hug and a kiss, have some flexibility, not be on the plane all the time, but I want to be able to crush it in the things that I care about.
Yes. Now you have the title of mom. Just like me. Favorite title. Love it. I love being a mom. Oh my gosh, I love being a mom so much. It's my favorite thing. It is the thing where you're like, oh my gosh, I just need a break. I just need a minute. I just need a minute. And the second that you step in the other room, you go, oh, but
where are they?
Okay. Let me scroll through pictures of them endlessly on my phone. And then my husband's like, my love, can you just give yourself a minute? Why don't you go work out? Why don't you go take a bath? I'm like, I know, but I just want to cuddle it's the parenting paradigm where it is so full on, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. But I think what's really key about what you said, and the pandemic may have been the thing that shifted this, when working from home and parenting from home, where they are completely converged, can feel incredibly overwhelming. How do you feel about that?
I feel like the way that we've built workplaces, we've set women up to fail, period. And the thing I always think about, Meghan, is like, look, we have the most educated workforce of women. Like 75% of the high school valedictorians are girls, right? Most of those getting their PhDs are girls. And we have to ask ourselves, why do we have the most educated population of women that have the lowest amount of participation in the labor force? And the reason is because when we become moms, because of the cost of childcare, because of the lack of availability of childcare, because we just don't make it possible for you to do both, oftentimes women are having to downshift or make choices. And the way we've tried to solve this problem is say, well, the problem is women, right? Like, you got to get more confidence. You got to power pose, your way before a meeting. You got to get a mentor, right? It's all about you're wrong, you're broken. When really it's just structural. And what was so amazing about this in the pandemic is I think it gave us a window of what's possible. So like if you do have flexibility, if you can take care of your kid when they're sick and still get it on a meeting, right? If you still can not be set up to fail because the school day is 8:30 and the work day is 9 to 5, right? If we can actually give people grace and flexibility and give women ownership over their time, you will actually see a shift.
And also with that comes the woman who is juggling it all and doing it all from home, being confident enough to tell the truth about what's going on. Because you can't give grace to someone in the same way if you just have no sense of it. You don't know if my kids, for example, right now, one has RSV, the other has influenza A. I hear a little pitter-patter of feet upstairs. They're home from school. Cough syrup all night and rubbing the back and this, and you go, and we still find a way to show up for both. But being able to be comfortable enough, and maybe that's to your earlier point, how we teach this generation who might not feel as inspired to do some of the change making that we know has been so fundamental. Say, no, just be honest in the journey of it 100%. And say, yeah, today I'm going to show up for you, but I'm showing up for you in my sweatshirt today because I've been up all night with my babies, but I'm still going to be able to show up for both because both matter and both are what keep my cup full.
Yes, 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 yes. We breastfed in closets. We didn't put our right. We didn't put our kid's picture on there. We're like, oh my God, I'm sorry. We
completely.
Like I always say, Girls Who Code, mostly women work for me. They get pregnant all the time, and we kill it, right? Like I have built two of the most fastest growing nonprofits, and we live our values. Mm-hmm. And so this sense of that. Well, you're not going to be productive, or you're watching Netflix while you're work. It's just not true. And so we just have to, but there's so much resistance to change.
Yes.
And I do think that part of that is about having women ask for what they need and our male allies. One of the things that you've seen really shift in this remote work conversation is a lot of men are saying, okay, great. You want me to come back to work? Dads are saying, you need to support me in my childcare. Mm-hmm. You need to change your paid leave policies, right? Mm-hmm. You need to allow me to be a parent and just thrive. But I think that is just absolutely right. Is how do we ask and demand what we need? I mean, you see it even in promotions. Men will not, if they leave the workforce, they will go back and they will not compromise on their salary. Whereas women all right, you want to pay me 20% less? Okay, fine. Thank you. Right?
I know. It's true. It's true. And that's the shift that has to come. And I think, look, as you continue to grow out, I don't know what your next chapter looks like for you, especially when you say 8 years and then maybe time for a change. Now you've already forecasted that in some way because we know you have proof points of how that works.
Yeah.
What do you feel like your next chapter will be?
Well, listen, I love exposing cons. And I think one of the things with all of these things that are in common is one, what do you mean girls can't code? Yes, they can. And they can build incredible things. And what do you mean we can't redesign workplaces for women? Yes, we can. We need to pass childcare and paid leave. And, the work I'm doing on my podcast right now, My So-Called Midlife, was I was in that inflection point between Girls Who Code and Moms First. There was no third baby. Right? I was seeing wrinkles on my face that I hadn't seen before. My body was changing because of perimenopause. And I was just feeling like my best years are behind me. And I started working with my monk, Rasanath. And that's when I started reading the Bhagavad Gita because I realized all the things that were holding me back and the things that I were holding on to. And it just opened up such this incredible moment of one, rethinking midlife for women. Because I think the view about midlife is so different for women and men, and we need to change it because we are living longer than we ever expected. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you knew this, but the largest gender pay gap is for women above 50. I have so many friends now who are approaching 50 and who are I can't get that promotion. I can't become a partner at that venture fund. I can't start that business. The way we perceive women, their potential and their opportunity, I call it the midlife penalty for women, really changes. And so to me, I think I will continue to do this work. Right? I will continue to do this work about women. I have made the realization, though, Meghan, we may not win in our lifetimes.
Meaning what?
Meaning that I might die with women having less rights than they had when I was born. That we may not see a female president in my lifetime. That your daughters, my nieces, may still be fighting the same fights that we're fighting. And for me, that was a really hard reality to face in midlife because we went through all the things we sacrificed to our health, our family, and we have to say, God, is it worth it? What is the point? What is the point if we keep dismantling progress? And I think I've realized that probably me, you, were put on this earth just like those suffragettes to just keep hope alive. keep fighting, keep pushing, because that's the point. You lose, and then you win.
Yes.
Right? You lose, and then you win.
And sometimes just when you think you're about to win, oh, man, did that hurt, because that feels like quite a loss. But you just keep going. And I think my understanding, especially in having this time to be able to hear your story and talk with you and see the commonality in some of these other equally successful women that I'm speaking with. We're going to talk about what's behind every successful woman. What's behind every successful woman is self-awareness. There comes a point where each of these women on their journeys has such a tremendous sense of self-awareness and the desire to dig deeper that is unflappable.
I think that's right. And I think you realize, I don't care what other people think about me. Mm-hmm. I'm not doing this. To me, I want to die knowing that I lived my fullest potential. Mm-hmm. And that I gave back to, I keep go back to my parents' story, about the people that sheltered them, that took them in, that fed them. I will continue to fight for our children to make sure that this world is good, that they learn and see goodness. And I think that we have a role to play in that. But I think the lesson is that you got to do it with joy.
Yes.
And it can't come at an expense, right, to your health or to your happiness or to your children.
Yes. And everything has some expense, right? But when you're looking, what's the ROI? What is your return on the investment of everything you're pouring into that? And at the end of the day, what you're doing is creating legacy that will, whether you see those changes in your lifetime or our kids' lifetime, it still steps in the right direction of what legacy is all about. And that, I think, is one of the most fascinating, probably most powerful things about the journey of creation as a female founder. You're creating something with lasting impact.
Well, thank you so much for all your, seriously, Meghan, there's so much gratitude and love towards you. I hope you know that.
Thank you. And thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it. How far we've come, and yet here we are.
Here we are.
Wherever we go, here we are.
I really appreciate it.
All right. Take good care.
Bye.
Bye. Next week, we are talking to an iconic founder in the beauty industry. She is a hair colorist. She's a stylist too, but my goodness, can this girl do some color? And she has turned her passion into products that people crave.
When I said the words, "The world does not need another shampoo and conditioner," literally I could have heard an amen from the crowd. People were over it.
Can you guess who it is? I'll see you then.
Confessions of a Female Founder is a production of Lemonada Media, created and hosted by Meghan. Our producers are Catherine Barnes and Oha Lopez. Kristen Lepore is our senior supervising producer. Executive producers are Stephanie Whittles-Wax, Jessica Cordova-Kramer, and Meghan. Mix and sound design are by Johnny Vince Evans. Rachel Neal is our VP of New Content and Production, and Steve Nelson is our SVP of Weekly Content and Production. You can help others find our show by leaving us a rating and writing a review. There's more Confessions of a Female Founder with Lemonada Premium. Subscribers get exclusive access to bonus content when you subscribe in Apple Podcasts. You can also listen ad-free on Amazon Music with your Prime membership. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next week.
Great.
From the Onward Project.